In the vast theater of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, bridges have become more than just physical structures. They are lifelines, strategic arteries that keep supply chains alive, armies moving, and populations connected. The destruction of one such bridge is never simply an engineering event but a strike at the heart of national endurance. The Kryukovsky Bridge, towering over the Dnipro River in central Ukraine, embodied that vital role. Its collapse following a Russian strike has reverberated far beyond the city of Kremenchuk, signaling a seismic shift in the war's dynamics. To grasp the scale of the blow, one must look not only at the material ruin but also at the broader significance, the rippling consequences, and the symbolic message that a fallen bridge delivers in wartime. It was not just steel and concrete that crumbled, but a piece of Ukraine's logistical backbone. For months, Ukraine had relied on the Kryukovsky Bridge as a crucial connection between East and West, linking industrial hubs with agricultural heartlands, and facilitating the flow of troops, weapons, humanitarian aid, and daily necessities. With so many other routes already under pressure, contested, or destroyed, this bridge had become indispensable. Its exterior structure, known for its sheer size and engineering strength, had long been a point of pride, representing Soviet-era industrial might. Stretching across the Dnipro, the bridge was both an economic artery and a military target waiting to be hit. Russia understood this all too well. In modern war, infrastructure is not just collateral damage, it is a deliberate target, carefully chosen to maximize disruption. The strike on Kryukovsky Bridge was, therefore, not just an opportunistic hit but part of a broader strategy to strangle Ukraine's capacity to sustain a prolonged fight. The bridge itself had a distinctive design, a fusion of industrial function and architectural weight. Externally, it stood as a steel-latticed monument, supported by massive concrete pillars that plunged deep into the Dnipro. Its long span allowed both road and rail traffic to move across simultaneously, which gave it double value in both civilian and military terms. The wide lanes could handle heavy cargo trucks, tanks, and armored personnel carriers, while the railway lines underneath were essential for transporting coal, grain, and fuel in bulk. For years, residents of Kremenchuk had taken for granted the sight of endless trains and convoys rolling across the structure, not realizing that one day this lifeline would be caught in the crosshairs of war. Internally, the bridge was less glamorous, more utilitarian. Beneath the road deck, steel girders and riveted beams formed a skeleton designed purely for strength. Maintenance crews often described its interior as a labyrinth of iron, echoing with the sound of trains clattering above and vehicles thundering overhead. Narrow service walkways ran along the beams, allowing engineers to inspect welds and bolts. To those who worked inside it, the Kryukovsky Bridge was like a living organism, humming with vibrations, resonating with the movement of an entire nation. It was not beautiful in the traditional sense, but it was functional, durable, and designed to serve generations. And in war, such functionality makes it invaluable. The performance of the bridge in wartime was nothing short of remarkable. Despite repeated air raid warnings, nearby missile strikes, and the constant fear of sabotage, the bridge kept operating. Supply trains carried ammunition and artillery pieces bound for the Eastern Front. Humanitarian convoys brought food and medical aid westward, ensuring that cities battered by shelling did not starve. The sheer load-bearing capacity of the bridge allowed Ukraine to sustain an impressive logistical rhythm even under fire. Its resilience had turned it into a military marvel of sorts, a structure that defied the odds and stood as a bulwark against isolation. Every successful crossing across Kryukovsky was, in itself, an act of defiance against Russia's attempt to suffocate Ukraine. Yet no structure is invulnerable, and no matter how robust the engineering, a well-aimed missile can undo decades of planning. Russia, with its advanced missile technology and growing determination to cripple Ukraine's infrastructure, eventually turned its sights on Kryukovsky. The strike that brought it down was sudden but not unexpected. Ukrainian intelligence had long feared that Russia would eventually go after this bridge, but defending every potential target across a war-torn country is near impossible. The moment the missiles struck, the once resilient span twisted under shockwaves, pillars cracked, and segments collapsed into the swirling Dnipro. Eyewitnesses described a thunderous roar as the steel gave way, followed by an eerie silence broken only by the cries of those nearby. Within minutes, the artery was severed, the connection gone, and Ukraine was left grappling with the loss of yet another strategic asset. The safety features of the bridge had once been a source of confidence. Redundant pillars, shock-resistant designs, and reinforced steel had made it capable of withstanding enormous loads and even some accidental explosions in peacetime. Ukrainian engineers had conducted regular inspections, ensuring it remained operational despite the stresses of war. But these features were never intended to withstand precision missile strikes. In modern conflict, safety in infrastructure is relative. What can protect against time and where cannot protect against hypersonic weaponry designed to penetrate reinforced bunkers? The Kryukovsky Bridge's collapse, therefore, was not a reflection of engineering failure but a grim reminder of the overwhelming destructive capacity of modern weapons. What made the Kryukovsky Bridge unique, and thus a particularly painful loss, was its dual role as both a civilian and military lifeline. Unlike many other bridges that carried only road or only rail, Kryukovsky was a hybrid, maximizing efficiency. This duality was its unique selling point. It allowed Ukraine to funnel goods, energy, and troops with unparalleled speed. For Russia, destroying it achieved multiple objectives at once, cutting off rail supply lines, halting heavy road transport, and forcing Ukraine to reroute through less efficient, more vulnerable paths. In terms of military calculus, the strike was devastatingly efficient. One blow achieved what would otherwise take multiple smaller strikes on separate targets. The loss of this unique asset forced Ukraine to rethink not just tactics but entire strategies of supply and movement. In discussions of war, people rarely speak of infrastructure in terms of price, but the Kryukovsky Bridge had an immense value. Rebuilding it, even in peacetime, would cost billions. The steel, the concrete, the engineering expertise, the months, if not years, of construction, these costs are staggering. In wartime, such reconstruction is nearly impossible, as labor and resources are diverted to survival. Beyond monetary price lies the immeasurable human cost, the delays in aid reaching civilians, the additional risks soldiers face without secure routes, the longer travel times that stretch thin Ukraine's already pressured defenses. For Russia, the cost of a few missiles bought them a strategic advantage worth far more than the expenditure. For Ukraine, the price of losing Kryukovsky is incalculable, measured not just in currency but in lives impacted. The conclusion one draws from this event is stark. The fall of the Kryukovsky Bridge is not just a localized tragedy but a turning point that underscores the fragility of Ukraine's infrastructure under sustained assault. It highlights Russia's evolving strategy of targeting logistical arteries rather than just frontline positions. It exposes the limitations of defense systems when stretched across a vast nation. Most importantly, it reminds the world that war is not confined to soldiers and trenches but seeps into the veins of nations, striking at the bridges, railways, and roads that sustain entire societies. For Ukraine, the path forward will demand creativity, resilience, and international support to replace what has been lost and adapt to the new reality. For Russia, the strike represents both a tactical win and a statement of intent, a warning that no lifeline is beyond reach. And for the watching world, it is a sobering lesson in how infrastructure has become one of the most decisive battlegrounds in modern conflict.